Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. This is one of the games from the most recent tournament. I want to go through the game one more time and figure out what are some of the mistakes I've made, and perhaps we can all learn from it. This is a game versus Surrey. Who, this is his Smurf account. He's one of the top players in the world. Um, Fantastic guy. Does a lot of tutorials. I've actually learned quite a lot from his tutorials. So if you haven't already, definitely give him a read. This is, I believe, game number 2 of the tournament game. So to start off the game, I am a quick supply specialist and I'll be up against a supply specialist. I started with tanks and crawlers, and he started with crawlers and mustangs. So turn 1, the idea was he does not have a lot of chaff clear. All his units are squishy. So what I wanted to do is to set up that initial tempo with extra crawlers. I personally play a lot of Mustang crawlers myself, so I know one of the hardest things to defend, especially if you don't want to commit to arc lights early on, is just a lot of crawlers. Because one is you can take a long time killing these crawlers while the tanks are shooting away at your chaff, so that was the idea behind getting more crawlers. And let's take a look at my opponent's side. He decided to add extra fangs, and he also decided to go through an even distribution instead of going on one-sided and going aggro. I like his positioning. And I also like the way that he set up the Mustangs this way, so that when they do engage, they'll be more likely shooting at the same target than spreading out, because the first two, for example, if they're shooting at tanks, right? So the first units will be, they were shooting at the same target. It makes sense for Mustangs because they simply don't have a lot of overkill. So this is actually a pretty good setup. Game 1 went pretty much as I expected, right? The crawlers, which is a lot, and it completely overwhelmed my opponent. With this side, they did got a little bit better. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I think it's just the RNG, maybe just the timing is slightly off. But it doesn't matter because I'm going to get his tower, and with the tower down, these Mustangs will be going down as well. Alright, so that goes into round 2. We actually get 3 units on round 2, and there are a couple great options. Fire Badgers are actually quite decent, but I decided to take Typhoons. So Fire Badgers are decent in a way that you can put the Fire Badgers kind of behind the enemy lines here. They are tanky enough to actually draw a lot of firepower. But I wanted something a bit more aggressive, so I decided to go with Typhoon. Was that a bad choice? No, I think that's not bad. If I were to go Fire Badgers, I would have put them right behind there. So he will have to answer with something like Steel Balls, which will have to, it will cost him extra money. He'll have to get Steel Balls, stuff like that. In this case, I think getting Typhoon is not a terrible idea. For him, getting Fire Badgers, they are pretty good because I have a lot of crawlers and they're all just going to run into the Fire Badgers. What I wanted to do is I wanted to really catch these Fire Badgers before they do too much damage. I also wanted the Fire Badgers to lock onto my Typhoons so that my crawlers can sneak through and do what they needed to do. I was being cheeky. I sold the tank, repositioned it over here just to deal with these crawlers, right? So as they come in, they'll be killed while my tank are joining aggro with the Fire Badgers. My opponent picked up 2 Phoenixes, knowing that until the Typhoons, I have nothing on the board that shoots up. He was probably hoping that I would pick the Fire Badgers, in which case I have nothing to shoot up. So Phoenixes would be a good answer to that problem. So the round was not too bad. The Fire Badgers did log on to my Typhoons, allowing my crawlers to do a bit more damage. Was able to overwhelm him on this side. And on this side, So far, so good. Alright, so that takes us to round 3. Underground Thread came up. So Underground Thread is an interesting choice, so I pick Underground Thread. As for my opponent, there's not a lot that he can do. He can go fortified Mustangs, but generally that's just not a card you'll pick unless you really want to survive the fire on the ground. For example, if your opponent's going heavy fire and you needed to win that round. I think the sensible choice will probably go with Underground Thread as well, either to bolster his own crawler defense, or he can stab you somewhere in the back. Alright, so for this turn, I did add another set of Typhoons. I sold my 10. For my opponent, who's a Supply Specialist, did get a Fortress directly in front of my Typhoons. I think this is a great move because right now there's nothing that I do that actually kills the Fortress effectively. I did pick up the Rocket Barrage from the Typhoons. My opponent did end up skipping, so he didn't actually get anything for that round. He needed the money. So I got the crawlers that are coming in here. I got extra crawlers on the side, drawing attention away from these Mustangs. And of course, this side with the Fortress tanking. My Typhoons is just simply not doing too well. He did get 2 Phoenixes in here, and that took the tower. Also got tower on my own. In fact, I got both of these towers. However, I just don't have any damage. I think he's going to get the tower, and after the tower is gone, I think he's going to kill all my units. So this is really the turning point of the game. This is the first turn where I started to lose tempo, because I saw the Fortress and immediately there are a couple options that went through my mind. What do I want to do against the Fortress, right? So I'm quick supply. I've already have Typhoons, so my options are either I go Fortress of my own, I can go Melting Points of my own, I can continue to go Typhoons for at least a turn, or I can put some chaff. Right? Hopefully it's not getting killed by the Fire Badger. I took redeployment. One is just I needed to defend this side. Put some fans on the other side just to make sure no more Phoenix shenanigans going on both sides. My opponent, if I were him, I'll probably put down more fortresses because I am very exposed out here. Right? So I can probably put 2 chaffs here, but then I'm very exposed. I notice his center is a little weak, so I put I level up my center crawlers and I just mobile beacon directly to the tower. My opponent put the fortress right there in the middle. Makes perfect sense. Repositioned my Typhoons because I needed to get away from this fortress while doing a bit of damage. And I guess my opponent had the same idea, noticed the center was a bit bare and he wanted to sneak in and get my tower. But unfortunately, I already have my Typhoon there to cover. Okay, so Typhoons, they're doing okay. These chaff are getting into the face, so these fortresses is spending a lot of time shooting at chaff. I'm getting the tower, which is great, and at the same time I'm taking down that fortress. With this fortress is still living, but with a few more rocket barrages, barely killing this fortress. This goes to show how strong fortresses are against units like Typhoon. Typhoons aren't terrible. I mean, they do have almost half of, like each Typhoon's got half as much HP as a fortress, but it's just the damage, right? It's not doing enough damage to the fortress. This one came around, so we got Scorpions, we got Wraith, we got Overlord. I picked the Scorpions, thinking that this will help me with the Fortress problem. The problem with Fortress, especially the Fortress in this particular position, is that one is that they have Punch, right? So Punch does 1500 damage, or 15,000 damage. 2 punches kill a Scorpion, right? 1 punch kill a level 1 Typhoon that's unshielded. So this is not ideal, right? Just having Scorpion up front. If he is going Punch, I think having another Fortress up front might be better. But right now, this is when I started to lose tempo. I saw the Scorpion, so I decided, you know what? Scorpion might be enough, and in order to mitigate the Punch problem, I took shields on these Typhoons. But the problem is I have no damage, right? Look at my Typhoons. So I got 4 squads of Typhoon, 2 Scorpions, got the Acid, so if it does land on the Fortress, my Typhoon could do a lot of increased damage. However, he does have Chaff all over. His anti-chaff is slightly weak. He's relying on mostly the Fire Badgers and also a bit of Mustangs. Right. Yeah, so right away, as you can see, the center is fallen, right? These Phoenixes are coming in, so this is a big problem. And once they're down there, they're doing a lot of damage. My right hand side is completely fallen, there's just not enough damage, and so will my left hand side. And now I'm at a place where I'm unable to solve this problem because 1, he's got Punch, right? 2, I don't have damage. So I need to have enough cover so my units actually do enough damage. But at the same time, I need to make sure that I kill these fortresses before their late arriving chaff comes. So in his turn, and this is a fairly easy win for him. If I were him, all you have to do, because he has decent chaff clear, he will probably need to upgrade these Mustangs. I decided to add a few more Scorpions, thinking that I will get through to him. He did put oil, stopping my late arriving chaff. And he also put some Fire Badgers on the side, so he will oil. And once my crawler getting range, this would just get burned up. He took shield, knowing that I have a damage problem, and I still do. So with shield and punch and just the original health pool of the fortresses, it was very difficult for me to stop this push, right? So what's the lesson here? Well, lesson 1 is when he started going fortress, I think the better response is either going fortress myself or going melting point. Melting point is not a terrible idea because my Typhoons themselves are pretty tanky and they do provide excellent chaff clear. So as long as these Typhoons get rid of the chaff, melting point locks on, I think I have a pretty decent chance at getting to him. The punch is problematic, but I think melting point with barrage would fix that problem handily. So overall, I think going to Scorpion with acid was not the right call here. I simply did not have enough chaff to allow my Scorpions to do the damage it needs to do. And also because he's so far forward, right? So it's just not enough time, right? There's not enough chaff, there's not enough time. So if I were to play this again, I think I would start doing Scorpions, not Scorpions, melting points, starting on round 3. But overall, it was a very good game. I think it was just the tempo was just a little too fast. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you around on the next one.